Dear Lord, we need to have a little talk.
We've come to one of my favorite segments of the year, our annual Christmas tree lighting.
Why does this kind of stuff always happen to me, Kev?
Why do people keep bringing up the human factor?
If I don't do the internship, I'm gonna be painting a lot of walls, maybe for the rest of my life.
I really miss him.
You're gonna see a sign, and that sign is gonna point you towards doing something that makes a real difference.
It's the reason.
Life is a never-ending series of choices. So choose to be happy.
An important part of kindness is cutting other people some slack.
Looks like I have some praying to do, huh?
Well, she's in good hands, but your prayers would be appreciated.
We hope you enjoyed the trailer for the Thursday Night Club. If you haven't checked it out, head over to PureFlix right now and check out the movie for yourself. It is such an inspiring film. And be sure to watch this podcast episode in its entirety. As our next guest, Valerie Smaldone, we have a treat for you at the end. Not only will she talk about what projects she's working on coming up, but we also have a clip of her on a hit TV show. You don't want to miss it. Mark 2.0. Valerie Smaldone, 5-time Billboard award-winning radio host, producer, you name it. She's done just about everything in the entertainment industry under the sun, is our guest today. Welcome, Valerie. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I'm just thinking what I haven't done. I haven't danced.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just so you know. Well, that's not true. I attempted to dance in an off-Broadway musical, and that didn't go very well. So I've left that behind.
Wow.
I think if looking at what you've done, if you'd have given it the attention, you would have knocked that out of the park, just like everything else.
Easily.
Yeah, I think you ran out of time probably with all your other achievements on the table. And fantastic to meet you, and thank you so much for being here. And happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, and we are a little bit before that season gets into the full swing, just a bit. But I thought I'd get into the mood with sparkle and with color and the poster for my movie.
It's great.
It's fabulous.
It's the perfect setting. Yeah. Well, I'd like to start out by asking you about the Thursday Night Club and what was the primary message behind it?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. Sure. Yesterday was, and I don't know when you're running this, but I don't mean to make it dated, but yesterday was World Kindness Day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was appropriate because the one of the major messages of this film is simply about kindness, about being kind. It's like completely, I think it's underrated, like vanilla ice cream is underrated. Vanilla is a delightful flavor, but we often say vanilla as if that's not something that's nice or something that's good and exotic. And I think kindness is underrated. I think we live in a world that has gotten particularly brutal and chaotic and tumultuous. And I think that this film is the antidote to that. It's about stopping and looking around yourself outside of your phone and your devices and seeing how you can be of service and how you can actually impact someone's life in a very simple way. Oftentimes, it doesn't have to be massive. It could just be a simple act of kindness. So this film is about kindness. It's about paying it forward. And on a spiritual level, it's about following signs from God. They're often all around us and we're not necessarily paying attention, keeping your eyes and your consciousness open to seeing if a path is sort of being made for us without us knowing it.
That's amazing, really. I mean, how did this project begin? Where did it begin?
Yeah, it started as a novella, a small book written by Stephen Manchester. And Stephen is a great guy. He is a veteran. He was in law enforcement. And he decided when he came back from service and from being in prison law enforcement that he wanted a kind of a gentler life. He wanted to be in a more inspirational position. So he did what he always wanted to do, which was become an author, became a writer. And this story, the Thursday Night Club, he can tell it much better than I can, but it came one day. He was traveling by himself. He dropped his family off in the Cape. He lives in Massachusetts, and he had to take a ferry. There was an issue with the ferry in the car, and I know that it's a little complicated, but anyway, he was in his car and he sort of just started writing the story in the summer. It was a summer story, and it became a holiday in the snow kind of a story about it was a little bit different than the way the movie was adapted, but it also was about kindness, and it was about being guided from above. So that's Stephen's story, The Thursday Night Club. It became a very popular novella, and the company that published it has an audio drama company as well. So it was adapted into a podcast, an audio drama podcast, in December of 2019, right before the pandemic. It did very well. So it was produced like a serial, and it did very well on Apple. It was sort of like a test ground to see, does this story resonate in a theatrical way? So it did, and the audio drama podcast. And so the company has always wanted to adapt it into a film. It took a little while, pandemic reasons, and here we are today, and it happened. It happened. And I'm really delighted that my path and their path crossed, because here I am.
So how did it get your attention, and how did you get involved?
I started working with a company during the pandemic as a producer, and we produced a docu-series during that time. And I always heard about this movie. It was always in the back burner that we really want to produce this film. And my time with the company, I kept developing with them and developing projects with them. And I was on board for this movie. I said, I very much want to do it, because I don't want to do nasty content. I don't want to do horror movies. I just don't want to go there. I really want to create stories, either fiction or not, that will inspire people and give them tingles. You know, sometimes when something is really special, or it really resonates or hits your heart, you sort of get those little tingles, those little chills. I'd like to be able to give that to other people through content.
I like that. You know, the older I get, I think I get that more often with content of this kind. You know, I really appreciate that you are veering off of the more violent, which seems to be, you can get a whole bunch of that anywhere you go. But in fact, you're on a platform. This is on a platform really that's positive. Can you speak a little about that?
It's PureFlix, and PureFlix is owned by Sony, so it's a big company, and their mission is to create or to show content that is faith and family. So it's either very religious based, or it's inspirational, or it's both. So it has kind of a wide reach, but it's all uplifting, positive, in some cases lessons, and it has a popular audience. I mean, people are craving this kind of content. So we were lucky enough to be picked up immediately. I mean, literally, we hadn't finished editing the movie. We had a trailer, we had a sizzle reel, we had all this material, and we met the director of acquisitions at PureFlix at a convention. And you know, a few months later, we had a deal, and then we had a second deal. So it's going to be on PureFlix through the holidays, and then we have a distributor who will take it to other platforms and also international. So that's great news. It'll be in many countries.
Well, I'm even being opened up to this, and I'm, you know, very into things of this kind, and I didn't even really know about it. So thank you so much for that. And I'm gonna, you know, dive into the other stuff that's on there. This is such a great movie. So this is a producer, that you're the producer and director of this. Can you just tell our viewers, what does it mean first, before you go into what you did? What does it mean to be the producer and director of a project of this caliber, this scale?
Thank you. So I'm one of 4 producers. So I have my co-producers. I know you spoke to Monty Hobbs already. You had him on the program.
And we love
Matthew. I'm sorry.
We love Monty. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Monty's
fans.
great.
We are
He's great.
crazy about him. Mhm.
Mhm.
So Monty Hobbs, Matthew Shazarex, and Lou Aronica. Lou also adapted the story into the film. So the 4 of us are producers on this. And my editor, Mike Furman, is also a producer on the film as well. So, but the executive producers, it's an interesting question because the word producer has many different meanings. So you could be an executive producer and you just pick up the money. You find the money to finance the film and you do nothing else. That's,
you know, you want to hear something funny? I was asking Mark, I'm like, is that a silly question? I don't know. Is it about the money?
Yeah.
Does she pay for everything? You know, and he's like, you know, let's just ask her, you know. So I'm just glad you're clarifying because this is fascinating to me because,
really
you know, please go on and explain, you know, thank you for explaining this.
Sure. So the word producer, like I said, it's a very large reaching topic. So a producer, like if you get, you know, 20th Century Fox, they produce, well, they finance it or they find the money. That's the money part of producing.
Yeah.
And then there's boots on the ground producing, getting everything done, the back end of how does a movie get done. So you have to, you know, create a budget. You have to decide on the people you're going to hire, the units you're going to hire. What kinds of cameras are you going to have? Who's going to run the cameras? What is the sensibility of the movie? Will there be a lot of special effects? In this case, no, not in this movie. What is the post-production like? What is the music going to be like? Are we going to license music? So all the elements that you never think about that need to be really pre-planned because you're working with a certain amount of money. There's a certain pool. There's a budget you have. And then location scouting. Where are we doing this? Where are people living? It goes down to catering. We have to feed people. Where do they go to the bathroom? You know, what about, it's true, if you're out on a set and where's the porta potties? So every
So you really
level,
need like 5 producers. I mean,
yes,
Yeah.
everybody is working on different aspects of the production. And I think it's a miracle, by the way, that it actually comes together. It's hellacious, it's chaotic. You think it'll never happen, and something happens. It's a miracle. I swear, it's a miracle. When you get to the set the first day, and I looked around and I saw all these people, we hired 40 people that I didn't know them before, you know, and then we have a cast, then you have to cast it. You have to get the right people for the parts. So all of that is part of producing. It's really heavy into the mechanics of making a film or a theater piece or a song. If you go into a recording studio, all of that back stuff needs to be prepared before you start doing the work. And then it doesn't end there. Then you have the film, you have all this stuff shot. Now you have to make it into a film. It's not a film until you go into the editing suite and you shape the story and you add the music and you add the sound effects and you add narration if you need it, or you do ADR work, which is adding sound to your mix. So it's a very complicated process. And when you think about like a Marvel comic or something, I mean, the millions and millions and millions of dollars in a budget to create that entertainment with green screens and all that backstory, or Tom Cruise and, you know, in flight. This movie is very, very simple compared to all of that. It's really just telling a story and laying it out very simply. And so our budget is not a Marvel Comics budget, obviously.
so you're also the director. So are you the sole director then?
I was the director. I am the director. The director helps take the vision of the movie and see it out. The director works intimately with the actors and prepares them or gets them through the scenes. But the director of photography, who is there creating the shots, coming up with the angles, knowing what cameras they want to use, knowing how they're going to shoot the scene, working with lighting and electrical, all of that. The director of photography is very, very important too, from the technical aspect. And the director and the director of photography work together to create the vision of the movie. So and I'm very proud to say there was two women on this set, director of photography and director, working together to have the vision. And if I didn't understand something, because she's very into cameras and into all of that, she would explain to me the things I didn't know. And if I'm looking for something in a scene that I say, how do I accomplish this? We work together to get where we need to be.
That's awesome. So you got a sound guy too, or person too. And then what else is there?
Well, in a scene, you have the assistant director who yells at everybody. It's very cool because my assistant director, Mike, who was terrific on set, kept it in control. And the director oftentimes is not in the room. So I'm watching this. I could be out of the room where they're actually shooting this, in Video Village, where we have our video, and I'm hearing the audio. And then he runs the show until I say, I'm coming in, or let's stop. I need you, because you have to also adhere to the budget and the time. So if you have a 10-hour shoot day and you have to accomplish certain scenes, he's keeping us on track. The producers are looking at timing with me. But we have to get the right shot. So all of these elements are part of making this movie. So many times I wasn't actually in the room, I was watching, and then I would be communicating with him through, walkie or whatever, or I would just walk in the room and say, let's discuss how we're doing this. So, and he can be the one that yells too. So I let him yell because I want to be nice.
Shout out to Mike and everybody else too.
Oh yeah.
And okay, that's really cool. I just feel like I'm there with you. That was really awesome. So what is different about this project than your other projects that you can just kind of, it's memorable to you,
I think taking over a town, a wonderful little town called New Milford, Connecticut, where we had housing and we had set design and we had space in buildings to do this movie, was different than anything I have ever done, and I should say this is my first movie that I've directed. And
congrats.
Yes, thank you. And most of my directing has been theater or audio, because I'm in the voiceover world and I do audio documentaries.
Yeah, we heard.
So all of that is still the same skill set, but you're not having the cameras there. All right. So now you're adding in the visual aspect of the story. So for me, what was different is I've never done this before. And it was a big project to walk into a town and deal with the mayor and deal with the film commission. We met the governor of Connecticut at one point, and to infuse revenue into an economy was fantastic. I mean, think about it. We swept into town. We ate, we rented houses, we bought coffee. We brought revenue into the town, which was also a big plus for us to do that. I mean, it's a nice feeling. So every day I had a very nice feeling when I would go to the set. I never dreaded it. I never was mad. I never was upset. I was so grateful to have been given this odd opportunity that I never expected. It really was an odd situation that came across my life, and I grasped it and learned a great deal during this. It was really
fun. You did a great job, and that town is so beautiful.
It was.
Do you know New Milford?
Just the scenery. The scenery is just so beautiful. Yeah, no, I don't know it personally, but it's just like a beautifully done movie, and it's just a beautiful town.
And it's great that you picked a U.S. town, because so many, like the Hallmark Channel, they use, no offense to Canada, they use like Hamilton, Ontario, or places over by Vancouver, and you chose the perfect location. Was it hard to get that location?
No, it wasn't. They have a film commission that was instituted in about 2002. I actually, my husband and I used to live, we had a house in the village, in the
Mm,
town of
okay.
New Milford. So I was
Mm.
aware that they had this film commission that was instituted in 2002. Adam Sandler came to town to do a film, and somebody brightly said, well, if we have one film, why don't we attract more films?
Yeah.
And so I remembered that, and I wanted to go back to that town. I mean, equally, I would have been happy in Hudson Valley, New York. It's gorgeous in the Hudson Valley. I'm sure there are many beautiful towns all over the place. We were even considering the South, in Arkansas or someplace like that. But none of us are, well, Monty's from the South, but he's North Carolina. And we didn't know people there. We didn't know crew. We didn't know anybody. So I felt it was better for us to be in an area that was close to where we mostly lived. And most of us lived in the Northeast, and Monty's the only one from North Carolina.
Have you ever worked with such a cast and crew so big? Was that pretty big for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not enormous, but it's also not tiny. And it's funny because I acted in a film right after that, with a very, very small crew, very small. And I said, wow, we actually had a sizable amount of people doing things for us. It was cool. It was lovely.
How long did it take to do this movie, to shoot that?
When the actual shooting schedule was a month, and we came to the town in early March, and we wrapped March 30th.
Wow.
And then we took a little break, and we started editing end of April, beginning of May, 6 weeks. Like I said, it's a simple film. It is not a complicated, highly produced, glossy film. It's a story. I really wanted the story to be the main point. The message is the story. And so no bells and whistles, really. It's just storytelling.
Yeah. And what was the workbook that goes with it? Explain the workbook and what that consists of.
Yeah, the workbook is meant for church groups, civic organizations, senior living centers. It reflects the principles in the film as it relates to the Bible. And so Reverend Bob McCaskill took the principles of the film and wrote lessons based on that. So for a deeper conversation, we can watch the film, and that's very nice. But if you want to go deeper and see how you can be a better person, you can give back to society. How do you handle grief? Because there is a sad part of the movie where somebody experiences tragic loss, and there's a grieving process. What is grief like? And I think particularly coming out of the pandemic, when so many people were affected by loss on some level, this is a perfect opportunity to have conversation in your community, in your school, in your Bible class, wherever you can have these conversation circles. It provides a deeper opportunity. And Gloria Gaynor, who's in the film, wrote the introduction to the workbook, and her sense of being guided is written there, being guided to write a song, being guided by her belief and her faith. And I find that very inspirational. So it's a lovely book, and it's a separate piece of the film. It's a companion workbook that's available.
How touched were you by what Gloria said about, because this was her first role, right? In acting.
Monty, I remember Monty was talking about it. Yeah.
Too.
It's her first acting role, right? She's played herself in anything, TV and film, but she played Gloria Gaynor. Now she played Dr. Poitier. And she actually chose the name Dr. Poitier because we didn't have a name for the doctor, and said, doctor, it's a doctor in the script. What would you like to be? And she named it after Sidney Poitier, who had just passed away. That was her homage to him. So having Gloria on set was absolutely delightful. She did a great job, very believable. And she has been doing a lot of press for us. And so bringing attention to the film on PureFlix has been awesome. Her story, what she writes in the introduction, is about really being guided to write lyrics for a song of faith. Gloria, of course, is a pop diva, but in recent years, she has started to get into gospel music, and she sings songs in that genre now. So everything's kind of coming together in this faith-based path that we have been on. And Gloria has joined us in the journey.
I personally have like kind of switched, not to go into anything except that I kind of switched genres, and it's kind of more like a country or bluegrass sort of thing. And I find myself listening to a lot more gospel, and other people too, like even younger people. Do you feel like this is like starting to like catch on a little more lately?
It's very feasible that is true, because I think people are searching for a deeper meaning in life. And I think that what we have been through, and I keep coming back to the pandemic because it was obviously life altering. It was universal because the entire world experienced it. And we're still feeling the fallout from it. I don't think we've been able to really properly express the trauma that we've all been through. I think we've all been through on some level. Now, not everybody, because some people, I don't know where you are in the world. Where are you?
Phoenix.
Oh, both in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting you say Arizona, because I was just going to point out my friend in Tucson did not feel it the way we did here. Because why? First of all, you're always outside. It's warm weather in the winter. So you're not feeling the being indoors and being isolated in a New York City apartment. She never felt it the way we did. So she said her life didn't change that much. It didn't really change. So I can't say everybody, but she certainly knew people who got sick. She certainly knew people who died. And I think that the trauma of this has yet to be told. So my belief is that people are looking for something deeper, some deeper sense of meaning, however you want to quantify that or qualify it, and whatever that means spiritually to you. So if people feel better going to church on their own like that, I started to do that. My mother died during the pandemic from COVID. So it was terrible, because you couldn't give anybody a funeral. It was otherworldly. So to be closer to her, I would start to go to church and I would light a candle. And that became my ritual, that every week I'd light a candle for my mom and dad and a friend who passed away. And that gave me solace. I never did that before. So I think people are changing their habits a little bit to be a bit more spiritual, to be open to it. And to, even if you don't practice it fully, to think about it in a different way. And so PureFlix provides, as an example, this platform provides many different kinds of content, even documentaries about this. And I went to a Christian film conference, and I saw a lot of documentaries questioning, what is this? What is the case for God? Is there a case for God? How do we go through this? It's a great conversation. It's a great conversation as long as everybody respects each other, and just keep your mind open. That's what I think.
I really appreciate you even tackling content of this kind. I was just so thankful hearing that Monty was involved in stuff like this, and now here you are with this great movie. Is there anything you'd like to say before we take off the subject of the movie? Is there anything you'd like to tell our viewers about the movie? I mean, not just where to see it, but just something you'd like to convey to our viewers on why they should maybe check it out, why they might like it.
We have an interesting arc, a storyline in the movie that is an added bonus, and it provides an opportunity for us as producers to raise awareness about a particular subject, which is bone marrow donation. And in the movie, there's a storyline about one of the Thursday Night Club members giving bone marrow to a young girl. And what's interesting about this storyline is that I cast in the movie a non-actor who plays the part of a bone marrow registry executive. She meets him in the college that she's at by accident. And the next thing you know, she's like following a sign from God because she was told she would have a sign, and she believes this is a sign to be swabbed, because that's how they put you on the registry. You swab your cheek, you send it in, and that's how how you're matched as a bone marrow donor through your DNA. So in the movie, this young woman is matched and gives her bone marrow to a young child. The man that I cast in that role did do that in real life.
Wow.
He was a football player at Central Connecticut State University. And the coach said to all the young men on that team, hey guys, I want you to be part of Be the Match, which is the National Bone Marrow Registry. Swab your cheek. All the guys did it. And this man, Mike, was a match for a little girl in Virginia. So he went through the process. He gave his bone marrow. He had to be off the football team for that year because it was a process. And he saved her life. So I cast him in the movie. I cast him in the film because even though he's not an actor, but the authentic story behind it is so powerful that I really wanted to have him in this film. And he was so sweet and delightful because he wants to continue to shed a light on bone marrow donation, because everybody can just swab. Chances are you're not going to be a match, but what if you are? What if you can save a life?
Yeah.
So we worked with Be the Match, the organization, and the Andy Talley Bone Marrow Foundation. Andy Talley was a coach at Villanova. He was a football coach. And he said, I have all these young, strong men available. Why don't we try and see if we can get all these teams to participate in the country, all these college teams to participate. And so it's just fantastic to be able to tell people about this. And that is a backstory in this movie that is so nice to share with you.
Gosh.
Wow.
That is amazing. Wow. Well, thank you again for your hard work on that. Would you mind telling us a little now about your past? Like maybe you mentioned you do voiceover. You seem like you're pretty much an expert at that. Can you give us briefly about your career? And because I know people, watch this and they want to get into this kind of business. And I find a lot of people that comes up quite a bit. Yeah, I did some voiceover. So what does it mean to be a voiceover artist? And I don't know, what do you want to share with our audience? What could you share?
So being a voiceover artist, like a producer, has many pieces of the puzzle. You can do commercials, you can do narrations, you can do audiobooks, you can do the automated voice on a phone is a voiceover when you think about it. Any recorded voice, meaning you're not seeing me speak. It's a recorded voice that is consumed. So it's a very large field. I've been doing it since I was 19.
Wow.
Because I was in radio as well for many, many years. And I felt that if I could use my voice in radio, why can't I have another revenue stream in voiceover? So I started doing this at a very young age. My area of expertise for a very long time was TV promos, network TV promos for NBC, CBS, HBO, Cinemax, Lifetime, all of those channels and networks. And I was probably one of the first, because I've been around a long time, one of the first female voices on news promos, because traditionally it would be the man with the very deep, big voice that would do these promos. And they started to change back in the 80s. In the 80s.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was very young at the time, but I started to do these news promos, and I love doing that because that was my area. I was sort of the voice of authority with that kind of a voice. And I was switched somewhere along the way. I was able to work in sports promos and work with Boomer Esiason as his voice of his TV show that he had at the time. This again was quite a long time ago. So it's a fun field. It is very varied. Now it's very saturated because everybody can do voiceover because everybody has a microphone and a computer. Whereas years ago, you know, you really had to go into a recording studio. You really had to have representation to get you there. You know, it was a very rarefied group of people who did this. Like back in the day, jingle singers. There were, you know, like 20 jingle singers, and that's it. Today, because of technology, the gates are wide open. Anybody can do voiceover technically. It's very easy to do it. Get a USB mic, get a computer, you record it. You can record on your phone and on an app, you know, if you have the right app. So technically it's easy to do. It's getting the work. It's finding the avenues. And there are a million ways to do it. I mean, we can have a whole seminar on that one day, but the gates are open, but it's a saturated field. So what I tell people is if you have a specific thing you do well, or if you speak a foreign language well, if you're fluent, and somebody's looking for somebody who speaks Farsi, that's great because you're going to be unique. So try to find that unique quality about yourself. If you do character voices, that's beautiful. You know, if you read very, very well and you like to do audiobooks, beautiful. Find that niche that is unique to you and exploit that. That's my advice to anybody interested in voiceover. And then expand beyond that.
You've gone so far. I mean, you have this charmed life. You were in radio even before you were 19 then?
Well, I went to Fordham University in New York, and they have a 50,000 watt radio station.
Wow.
And literally on my first day of school, I was 17, and I walked into the radio station and said, how does this work? And I auditioned for the announcer's workshop. I got into the announcer's workshop, and I started working at college radio. And then I was hired, I think in my junior year, at a professional station outside of New York City. So I've been doing it for a very long time, the radio business. And now I'm out of it a little bit. I had been doing radio up until 21, but with all my responsibilities, I couldn't do it any longer. So I had to make a decision and sort of let that go for now. Doesn't mean forever, but let that go and concentrate on producing and directing.
Is the radio business not the same as it was? Like there's not as many jobs, like because of all the streaming and everything. Like we interviewed Aretha Franklin's son, Teddy Richards. He does on Live 365, his own radio, Think Radio. And there's other people that do that. Is it much different nowadays with radio personalities?
Well, there's, again, sort of because of technology, the same thing with voiceover. There's more opportunities because of the different streaming networks, but it's hard to make a living doing it now, I think. And I was very, very lucky that I was at a radio station that I called the Yankees of radio because it was the #1 radio station in the country, the #1 billing radio station. My time slot was the #1 rated for music radio. And so we were a high-brow radio station. And I was part of that experience for a long time. So I was very lucky. And it was a phenomenal experience. Those jobs are not there as much anymore. Not saying that you can't make money or you can't become a star in the radio field. It's harder and harder to do because a lot of these companies have gobbled each other up. And so they have one voice on 15 stations. So the jobs I'm talking about terrestrial radio, not Sirius, not satellite, excuse me, terrestrial radio. That means the old fashioned over the air, turn on the radio, which I don't even know that people do. Do
I was
people
going to
listen
say,
anymore?
Yeah. Who
when
does?
is the last time I turned on the radio?
I don't think so. I'm the same way, unfortunately.
So you were an actress too, though, in between all of that, right? I mean, I have my notes say Blue Bloods, and what other work did you do?
I've done also fairly recently, the last few years, Law and Order, the new Law and Order, Organized Crime, something called it's on HBO Max. It's a funny show. It's The Other Two. It's comedy.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. I remember seeing you in that. Yeah.
I did Tommy, which was one season on CBS. I loved Tommy. It was with Edie Falco. She was playing the chief of police of Los Angeles. It was a fabulous show. I don't know why it got canceled, but I was in Tommy. I did Manifest, which was on NBC that then went to Netflix. Most of the jobs I do, I'm cast as a TV reporter because I have TV, I'm done it, right? So they like to cast real media people doing that.
Well, that was early on too, because I saw you in Born in Flames, and that was like 83. Yeah.
Oh my! I was a child. Child. Yes, that's how I started. But my favorite role was Blue Bloods because I played an attorney. And I would love to send you a clip because it's very funny. I play an attorney. I have 2 words, but they're important words, and I'm in the whole scene. And we laugh about it all the time because the 2 words are simply, Jerry, please.
Oh, Mark, we have to run that.
Yeah,
we are gonna. We're gonna do it. I think if it's really short, it's allowed. We might be able to do that. That'd be so funny. We have to do that.
It's fun, and it was a great experience. Blue Bloods was a great experience. So I still dabble. I have a manager that sends me out, and I do things. I just did this film for my friend who was producing it. It is a horror film, but I am not in any violent scenes at all. I am just interviewing somebody in the horror film. And I did it because I love my friend who's producing it. I'm in Figs for Italo, which is a small film, a short film rather, that did very, very well. I sent you a photo from that. Yeah. So yeah, I do stuff now and again. And I love theater. That's my blood. I love theater. So yeah. Keep busy. I keep busy.
That's awesome.
That's for sure.
So I was wondering, since you got into all this in an early age, your parents must have been pretty cool when it comes to all this stuff. Let me ask, where were you born?
The Bronx.
And where were your parents born?
The Bronx.
Yeah.
There you go.
So how early did your parents start to accept this whole entertainment stuff with you, and how did that start?
It's a great story. Thank you for asking. My parents loved the culture of New York City, and they exposed us, me and my sister, to opera, ballet, Broadway, fine dining. We were not a wealthy family. We didn't go on vacation, but they did expose us to the culture of New York, for which I am so grateful, and am so in love with the fact that I was able to do that. I've seen thousands of Broadway shows, thousands. Wow. And I realize that most people don't even get to see one in their lifetime. So I fell in love with the theater at a very young age. My mother was a teacher and spoke 4 languages. In her effort to continue to educate my sister and myself, one summer, with no air conditioning in our car, she says, we're driving to Stratford, Connecticut, because there was a replica in Stratford, Connecticut of the Globe Theater in Stratford, England. And they did classic plays, Shakespeare, Moliere, all these classic plays. And I was, 8. And I said, Mommy, I don't want to do that. I want to see Herbie the Love Bug, which was a movie that was out at the time. Oh. I'm really dating myself, guys. You're going to look this up.
No, we love that too. We love that too. I grew up on that.
I saw Herbie the Love Bug. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I put up such a struggle the whole way. She said, no, we're going to see Shakespeare at the Globe. Beautiful theater, very hot summer day. We go to the theater and we see Shakespeare. They're all dressed in these costumes, heavy brocade. The air conditioning broke in the theater.
Oh, wow.
So my mother's sweating. She's sweating. At intermission, she turns to me and she says, Valerie, you win. I can't take it anymore. And I had been smitten at this point. I had seen these people on stage and I was like, no, Mommy, I don't want to go. Oh, no.
Yeah.
So now I made her stay till the end of the play because I saw these characters come to life. I saw them unbelievably perform in the heat with these terribly long and heavy costumes. And they came out afterwards and thanked everybody for staying. And I was just in love. I was in love. And that was the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to theater constantly. I wanted to be in the theater constantly. And my father was a photographer in New York, and he was a little bit wary of me getting into entertainment because he had his experiences with it. So he was the one who said, why don't you get into radio? He was the one who said, you should try this. And I sort of thought, okay, that's sort of like entertainment. All right. So
you thought it a more safe
correct.
avenue. That's interesting.
He was lucky because most people leave. If you're in New York and you're starting out, you don't start out in New York. You go to Dubuque or you go to, Northern Maine. But I was lucky that I never left New York. I just did local radio outside of New York City. Was my beginning, half hour outside of New York. And then I was in New York City and I never left.
It's cool that you got into it and never left that industry, and you've just been riding it the whole time, and you're just you ended up in a place that's just pure light and positive energy, and you don't like all that negative stuff, and that's probably a whole other hour show in and of itself right there. So let's say God drops this money bomb on you and says, go do something, Valerie. Well, what would you do with like a big budget project that you were in charge of?
I love to create the story. So if somebody said, look, here's a lot of money, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
I always want to give something back to whatever topic or organization we're involved with. There's got to be a give back, not just give me, but let me give back something, whether it's awareness or it's money or it's resources, something that's important. What do I love? I love animals. I love food. I love to make people happy. We'll figure out what we can do. I don't have that answer for you right now, but I think if I could do anything, it would be to create happiness through those elements I just mentioned to you. Food, music, animals. What else? I mean, really?
No, can't get much better than that.
Sounds good to me. Sure does. Oh, sorry, Mark, I'm hogging the gas.
No, you're fine. Go right ahead. So,
I think I was gonna say, before we left, what do you think your key to success is?
Yeah.
Well, what was the key to your success? I think your parents were probably
they must have played a big
part
role.
of it. The way your mom, took you to that Shakespeare thing, and then, and that's really a funny story how the air conditioning was out, But what else did your mom do to propel you, and also who else propelled you into this direction?
Well, my father too, because as I said, he was the one who exposed me to radio. He loved radio, and he said, I think this is great for you, as you said, to make it a little safer for me. And the constant exposure and buying of tickets and taking us to fine dining that they did was very, very important for my development.
I always kind of thought I was a little missing out on something by growing up in Phoenix, because I come from a bunch of hunter cowboy guys, who know how to shoot ducks and stuff like that, I thought I just was always very envious of people who are highly cultured, on the East Coast, where kind of the United States was born, and culture began, and evolved over a long period of time. And out here, we're always just kind of roughing it all the time, Even in Phoenix, when I was growing up, I remember standing outside my house at 5 years old, and all I saw was bulldozers just plowing everything down and plowing everything down.
Wow.
I just think it was, I just like hearing the whole New York perspective, and someone so appreciative of, you don't hear that, you hear people talk about the toughness of New York, the busyness of New York, you know, but someone who is just really just appreciating all and you went to all of those, you said you went to like 1,000 different,
thousands. I mean, because I started very, very young. And then luckily I was able to go through press contacts, and because I write an article about theater, so I would get press tickets, and the press tickets are, you know, you're getting orchestra seats in a Broadway house.
Yeah.
And then I have relationships with the Broadway League, and I do work for them. I just did a concert in Times Square for them at the beginning of the Broadway season. So I'm in it a little bit, and I'm sort of circulating around those people. So I'm very, very grateful. I don't take anything for granted ever. And to answer your question about success, and I don't know that I would state myself as successful, because I don't know what success is. That's a topic for another day. I don't know how we define success, but what I can tell you is that I will never not work. I have worked, I'll share a story with you. I left the radio station. They took very good care of me, this radio station. I decided I was going to leave and reject a contract because I saw the future of music radio, and I didn't think it was going to be where we were. Case in point, nobody turns on the radio like this, right? They listen differently. We listen differently. So I saw this coming, and I decided I wanted to do something different. So I left the radio station. It was 2008. If you recall, that was the time when the world crashed, the economy crashed, and everything was really bad. So there was no work, and certainly nobody was going to hire me. So because I had come from a very high-end radio station. But what I decided I was going to do was get into talk radio, because I was a music radio person, but I needed to learn talk radio. I don't know, like this, you know, you have to talk to people, you have to fill time, you have to be on certain elements that you have to hit on a radio station live. So I went to a radio station on their stream. They had just started to have different programming on their stream. I said, give me a couple hours a day on your stream, and I'm going to develop my radio show. And I did that for 2 years, every day, and I made no money, $0. I wanted to learn it, and I wanted to do it in the best way I could do it. So I'm not afraid of saying, well, I mean, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I had, because every day is a new story. And those people who say, you know, I at a certain level, no, you're not. You're not, because if you were, you'd be there. So you have to be willing to start again and again and again. And that's one thing I will say. I have been very able to begin at the bottom, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of that at all. And so if you want to say that's resilience, that's what I think I have. And sometimes you get sad, and sometimes you cry, and then it's over, and you're like, okay, let's go. You just have to have you have to realize that it's not a linear life. I don't think it goes, oh, today I've made this money, and tomorrow I'll make this money, and I'll be successful here. No, every day is different, and every circumstance is different. And you think of, in the history of the world, people who have been very wealthy, and then one day the Nazis come in and take that away from them. You can't have that any longer. What happened in the Ukraine? Those people changed overnight. Things change, and you have to be able to address it and be resilient. So to answer your question, I think that's something that I have in my arsenal of good things, I think.
Oh yeah,
wonderful attitude. I love your modesty, along with your confidence. You know, you're just beautiful and talented, and you just want to give back and give back, and the world would be okay if we had a lot of people like you running around.
For sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just keep up the good work, and I'm very, very impressed with everything you've done, and can't wait to see what you do next. Mark, you got any more questions for?
No, it was just an honor, and just a thrill. We're really inspired by what you do, and it makes a difference in the world.
Just a beautiful story you tell. Is there anything you'd like to cap this off with tonight?
Yes, our next project is Divine Renovation.
Oh,
and
yes.
that is
Eric Estrada. Yeah.
We just shot
we've been
that
following that.
Yeah, we shot that in October, and it was so much fun, and so happy to be able to actually help people and give them a leg up with small enhancements in their lives. And so that's our next project that's coming out next spring. We're in the editing process right now, and it was a wonderful experience. So if I can stay in that area of doing things and creating stories and making people feel good, I think this is a good part of my career now that I'm enjoying very, very much.
Mark, we've been watching this thing unfold. I can't wait till the spring. Do we actually get to see it? This is so fun.
It really is
fun to watch this thing come. So thank you for mentioning that, because we are just so excited about it.
And it's so good to, talk to somebody who's totally transitioned to doing feel good, thoughtful entertainment that's meaningful to the society, with like you mentioned before, with everything that's going on in society. We need this. We need this content like never before.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you for reaching out. And maybe I'll see you in Arizona, because I go a lot to Tucson.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
I'm going to Wilmington. I'm moving to Wilmington in
Are
April.
You? Really?
Yeah, the end of March. Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll see you there.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
It was so great having you here.
It really was.
Really appreciate
such a thrill.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Be
Yes.
well.
Thank you. And
Same
come
to
back
you.
if something else happens. Well, we would always love you to just anytime you want to come back. We'll do.
Yeah,
a show.
we'd love to
Thank
promote
you.
anything you're doing.
Thank you.
I want to hand it to you people, because this is probably the phoniest setup since the invasion of Iraq.
Really? So somebody else put the roofies in your bathroom?
You think I look like
Jerry,
someone who needs...
Please.
No, they were not my drugs. I don't even know how they got there. They were probably planted by Miss Diana.
Yeah. She roofied herself.
Come on. All right, cut to the chase. I had sex with her.
Great, now we're talking.
But it was totally consensual.
So you were in a relationship?
Not exactly. First time I laid eyes on her was at the rally yesterday. She told me she was getting a law degree. She wanted to help out with the cause.
Can you explain her bruises?
She wanted it rough. Some women do. I'm totally not into that. And no. In fact, the only thing I'm probably guilty of is a lapse of judgment for not being able to see through the obvious entrapment.
Who do you think is setting you up?
Oh, come on, it's you guys. In fact, that bitch was probably on the NYPD payroll to help with the vendetta.